This thing about the price, it's not so much about charging something that is so high end. It's more about charging something that you feel confident with charging. Because if you're confident with charging whatever that price is, after you charge 5 people, your energy and your confidence will increase and you can potentially double that amount.
Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur, the podcast that helps you expand your reach and convert that reach into clients so you can lead your tribe with confidence and create change in the world while living the life you desire. And now your host, certified business coach and consultant, Mariana Ruiz.
Want to get your next paying client in the next 7 days? Head on over to marianacruiz.com/7days and get your free download. In this download, I walk you step by step through what steps you can take to get your next paying client in just 7 days. No joke. And I even give you scripts to use. I tell you exactly what to do each and every day so that there is no confusion about what you should be doing in order to generate clients this week. So head on over to marianacruiz.com/7days to get your free download. Have an awesome day, and I hope you enjoy that free resource from me. Hey there, and welcome back to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. Today I have Pachi McLeod. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. And she's going to be talking with us a little bit about how to get booked and how she had her first 10K month. So I'm excited to hear how that went for her, how she got started, and some awesome tips for you to take home with you so that you can get booked. Ready?
Yes, awesome.
Awesome. So tell us how you got started and like what your business is and everything that you do.
Well, first, thank you so much, Mariana, for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be here, to be able to share with you ladies for just a few minutes, a little bit about my story, what I have been doing with my clients, and of course, how you could also get booked and make your first 5 or 10K month with ease and with fun, which is a big deal for me. And my name is Pachi McLeod. I am a business coach and a strategist for coaches and service-based entrepreneurs. And a lot of my clients are multi-passionate and high-achieving people who are up to making just big impact in the world. For us, a business is not just a place to make money, but it's really a platform to live out our calling and to reach the people we're here to serve. And in my case, that started about 3 years ago. My background is actually counseling and nonprofits and teaching. And I have been working with different nonprofits, both in Dominican Republic, which is where I'm originally from, and here in the US, working with some of the largest nonprofits, helping them create programs and fill them up. And I've been selling programs since I was a teenager. I remember that I would sell it to my neighbors and to people that I knew. And I'm just always excited about learning and about just breaking down the process for people to be able to take the steps. And of course, I wouldn't have been able to articulate it that way at that time, but it was just using more of my gifts and the things that I really like doing that draw me into looking at how could I coach other people to do the same. I didn't start as a business coach. I actually started as a purpose coach. When I became a mom, to make the story short, when I became a mom, I just wanted for something more. Even though I was doing a lot of the making the impact, I didn't have the freedom to spend the time that I wanted with our son. And as my priorities changed, I needed a different platform to be able to continue to live out my calling. And that's when I found coaching.
Love that. That's so beautiful. So how long have you been in business?
So in business, I started my business in the fall of 2015. So I've been in business almost 2 years. And in my case, the business started actually as a purpose coach for leaders and entrepreneurs. I was looking to use more of like my counseling background and thinking about how could I create programs to help people live out their calling and just live out their dreams. And I happened to attract a lot of entrepreneurs in the process. And one of the things that we saw was that as they figure out more of their calling and their purpose, their business actually grew exponentially within a very short period of time. And that's when I launched my first group. And that's when I actually got to book my whole program in less than a month, my first program. So that was fun. But, you know, I know that you and I had talked about it, how people then started asking me, well, how do you do this? And how were you able to get booked? And so that opened a new step or a new season for my business.
Love that. And it's like, that's the beautiful thing about having your own business and being your own boss. It's like, you can just sidestep and like organically transition as you evolve, right? Like, when I started as a health coach because I was a nurse and I was like, this is a good fit. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, you know, same thing. People were like, how are you doing that? Like, and you have little kids, like how? Yeah. So, you know, you answer and you adjust to like who is following you and you give them what they want, right?
Yeah, I find that as you expand, your business expands with you. And I was talking with a client this week about whenever you focus on the ideal client you have right now, somehow it's like if those clients or those type of clients, they like introduce you to the new kind of person you're supposed to work with.
Totally. Mm-hmm. So can we talk a little bit about like getting booked? Because you're obviously good at it. And I think people are really interested, like they just, you know, get so caught up in the weeds of like everything. And then they kind of forget about sales and getting booked.
Yeah.
So talk about kind of like, do you have a process? Like kind of what does that look like for you?
Yes. So just to piggyback on that, like, so when I first started, like I said, I booked my program in less than a month. It was amazing. And then I was like, well, I want to transition to more of the online world full time. And I heard crickets. And part of it being that a lot of the time online, and you know this, and I heard you speak about it before, how it takes time to build the relationships, to build the trust. So I have a process that I work with my clients and a process that I was able to come up with as I made a lot of the mistakes that I made in the process. But it starts with having a clear goal. Mm-hmm. I find that just what you said, like a lot of entrepreneurs, they're more thinking, I'm going to grow my business, and they're not having a set goal that they can focus on for the next 90 days to 6 months.
Totally.
So even before we're talking about all the details and the how or the strategy, in my process with my clients, we get very clear on what's the direction they're wanting to go. So what does getting booked look like for them? So that's something that I would recommend, like get clear on how many clients would you need for you to get booked.
Totally.
Yeah. And then once we have that goal, then we look at what's the best business model or the best process for you to provide these services. And sometimes people are doing things because they see other people do it. So someone else is doing 101, so they think they have to do 101, or someone else is doing group coaching. And I actually believe that you have your own kind of like design, and it's based on like your personality, your interests, the things that you're passionate about, that creating either the 101 program or the group program, it has to be really in alignment with who you are and where you're at in this season of your life. So that's another step that we look at. And then we just go through the process, which I am totally open to talk with you about it today. But it's just going through that process of then from that goal, how can we like reverse engineer the process? So if your goal is to hit that first 5K, or if your goal is to hit that first 10K, we look at what's the business model that you would like to use, and we dive into that so that we can make sure that it's something that really resonates with you. And then we dive into, well, how many clients would you need? And what kind of people would be looking for the service that you want to provide? So it's almost like creating this perfect place or this awesome place for the people that you want to attract within the next week to the next 90 days. And again, I'm a lot about more focus because I feel that that's part of the reason why a lot of us go into overwhelm. And I know that in my case at the beginning, I was investing, Mariana, so much in so many programs and in so many things without having a clear goal and without really getting clear on the foundation. You know what I mean? So that I could then scale up.
Oh my gosh, you like, yeah, so much. And if you listen to the previous episodes, I've done episodes where I've shared like all of my horrible frustrations with this, but I so hear you. It's like we think we need that next level, and yet we have not put the goal in place, right?
Yeah.
And I have kind of like a little bit of a love-hate relationship with goals because I am a super high achiever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if anyone listening wants to a little tiny like session on goals, like there's a specific episode where I talk about how to set and achieve your goals every time, because I feel like what a lot of people do, and this is the mistake, right, of the goal setting, is they'll say, yes, I want 10K months. But then there's no focus, like you said, and almost like that reverse engineering is not there. And so that's the overwhelm and the tail spinning, because you're like, I want 10K months, I want 10K months, I want 10K months, but you have not done anything to get it, or the things you're doing are not right for where you are in your business. What Pachi's saying is like, scaling up is the second phase. If you haven't yet reached 5K months, you probably won't be doing a tripwire funnel. And if you are, then you can expect slow growth rather than faster growth, right? So applying the right strategy to where you are, and you've talked a lot about that, I think, when you said designing the business around your unique personality and kind of like, you don't have to follow a set formula.
Yeah.
But it's really important that you reverse engineer no matter what, and then have a realistic goal. And I hate to even say the word realistic because I feel like that sounds like we need to aim for less than what we think is possible. But have something that like concrete numbers will show you that you can actually get there, right? So that might mean investing a lot of money into Facebook ads and a copywriter, right? If you're trying to scale before you build out organically. But I hear you on this. Like, this is a big thing, and it's a big problem because it gets us investing in stuff that we're not ready for.
And I love what you're saying, Mariana. Part of what I think is this is something that I always talk about with my clients. So building a business, you could even imagine it as like building a house. So part of that, setting the goal and getting clear on the goal, it's almost like looking at the blueprint. What kind of house are we building? You know what I mean? In the next 90 days. And then from there is setting the foundation, getting very clear on what kind of client do you want to attract? What's that main thing that they're looking for? Not in 6 months, but like yesterday. What have they been looking for so desperately that they would rather work with you than go on a vacation? You know what I mean? Or it's getting very clear on what kind of offer do they want. And a lot of the time people might not realize that you have to kind of like slow down before you can speed up. So that's one of the reasons why I always want to know what the goal is. Because in my case, like I said, I'm a multi-passionate. I can get distracted very easily because my brain is always shooting new ideas at me. So if I didn't have a goal that I was focused on, I noticed that I would get distracted. And then I did some research because it was really a struggle for me. And I did some research, and I remember Tony Robbins talking about how our brain works and how whenever you set a clear goal, it's almost like if you were in a room and you're telling your brain, I want to find the color red, like show me all of the objects that are color red. And it's almost like once your brain looks for the color red, if you were to say, well, how many color blues do we have? It's kind of like what happened. You're saying you want to get booked, but then you start focusing on the website, for example, right? Like your focus is not where it needs to be for you to have a clear target. So that's kind of how I look at it. For me, the getting booked, it's kind of building the actual house. And then from there, we can scale up because we created a foundation that is scalable. We know that, for example, if you are at your full-time job, you need to be able to have very specific tasks that you're focused on to grow your business. That's a totally different season than when you're home full-time and you have the money to pay a babysitter, you know what I mean, or someone to take care of your kids so that you can work on your business for full hours straight. Like, it's just looking at the different aspects before you're building this house, and then you halfway through you realize the foundation is not the right foundation. Nobody's buying, nobody's claiming the discovery calls. It's all about that so that then you can scale up. Does that make sense?
Totally. And like, I hate to say it, but I did a foundations challenge last year, and nobody wanted it. Like, this is the unsexy stuff, right? That like people need, but it's not sexy, but it works. Right? And like, the funny thing is that like the people that went through that foundations challenge and that did sign up to work with me were like so far ahead of who I was seeing all along before that challenge. It was really interesting when I did that challenge, because I mean, it like for my signups for challenges at that time, I was getting around 200 people in a single challenge. And for that challenge, I literally had like maybe 100, maybe like 70 something. And I remember telling my coach, I was like, I think I sold the wrong thing, right? Like, I've been talking about how there's not like a one size fits all, like a quick fix type of thing. And it's like, but they don't want the foundation. And I'm like, you know, and it was that pivotal moment in my business where, yes, it was like, okay, you need to sell them what they want and give them what they need. But I think also it was just so clear to me how much I had personally grown. I knew how important the foundational pieces were, and that really, like, that's the main thing, right?
I couldn't say it better than that. That's awesome.
And it's like, these are the things you learn with experience and with like failing forward and like not being afraid like of whatever, right?
I feel, and taking ownership of where you're at in business. I find that in each step of your business, like if you're a newbie, if you've never, and I say newbie like with respect, I'm not like saying it in a derogatory way, but like if you're new at a business, meaning you've been in business less than 1 year, I would really focus on like, how do I focus? And that's redundant, but like, how do I get focused on making my first 5K month? To me, the 5K month and the 10K month, it's more than just about the money. It's more about proving that your business model works. So that's why I always say, let's focus on making your first 5K or your 10K. We want to know that it's like testing the car, you know what I mean? Or testing this new engine to see that you're driving people into it. Once I see that my clients hit that first 10K, if they have a business model that can be scaled up and that's scalable, then I normally see them take off, because it's more about tweaking and repeating, you know what I mean? Or adjusting based on their new goal, rather than spinning their wheels all over the place because they don't have a business model that they can repeat.
So true. That is it. Like, I can't even. Okay, awesome. So let's say they get clear on the goal, then they reverse engineer the goal. Now what do you do? Or is there more to the reverse engineering that we haven't like talked about, or like, where do you want to go next?
Cool. So I have a 5-step process. And if you want, I can just say what the 5 steps are really quick, and then we can just talk about them.
Yeah.
So that first step is the getting clear on your goal. And then number two, it's all about the mindset. And that's something that I also think that sometimes can be tricky when people are talking about mindset. If you're just doing mindset in general without having a clear goal, it's harder to see what blocks or limiting beliefs you could have around the goal. And that's one of the reasons why I feel that my clients can gain a lot of momentum, because first I focus on what is the current goal that you have. And once we set the goal that feels good to them, we know the kind of business model they're interested in and how much money they want to bring in the next 90 days to 6 months. Then part of the reverse engineering, it's looking, so what are the blocks between where you are and where you want to be? And that's where a lot of the confidence or other kinds of limiting beliefs and emotional like handicaps come in. The third step, once we've cleared and transformed those limiting beliefs and we have a framework for them to be able to stay in that positive mindset. Because without the right mindset, and the entrepreneurial mindset is different from a corporate mindset. So it takes time also to build up like those muscles, I feel. So that's one of the reasons why we focus on that. And then is when we look at the strategy. So once we know, okay, so these are the blocks. For example, I don't think I can get 5 clients. I don't think that people would pay this price. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that this goal is too big for me. Then we look again. It can sound tedious, but in reality, whenever you're working with someone else to do this, it's so much easier because all of these foundational pieces to be able to get booked, it doesn't matter how good you are at doing it with others. It's like if you were a surgeon trying to perform surgery on yourself. That's why I recommend so much for people to look for a coach or to have a coach before they start hitting these goals, so that they have someone that can actually walk with them through a process that might bring up procrastination because you don't know how you're going to do it, or it might bring up some of that crap that comes up. So then that third step, it's all about the strategy. This is where we get very clear on how are we going to attract, engage, and convert these people. So this process is all about the funnel. And for me, it's more than just an email funnel. It's more about like the client conversion strategy. We know who your people are by this point. We know what they want, and we know like where they're at. So what are the free things that you need to offer to move them into a discovery call or an assessment or a conversation with you? And then how do we close that call so that they can book your first level offer? And that's another thing that I find where a lot of people struggle before they get booked, is that flat out starting out, they're creating, for example, a lot of things that prevent that ideal client from getting on the phone with them. To me, whenever the client gets on the phone with you, that's the first opportunity for you to actually get to hear from that person. And that's when that person's raising their hand up saying, I'm interested in what you're talking about, right? Like, I'm interested in taking it a little farther. It's more than just looking at whatever you're posting or making a comment. They are coming in touch with you one-on-one. And we're looking at, so what's like the no-brainer offer that leads to your longer term offer? So I think you and I talked about this. It's like giving people a taste of what it would be to work with you before you're asking them to get married to you.
Yes, I think we did. It's so true, right? Like, hi, nice to meet you. Pay $10,000 to meet today, right? Like, no.
Yeah. I was talking with someone the other day. It was really sad, and I don't have to say her name, but I think that I've heard it enough that it's worth mentioning here. I was talking with someone the other day, and she was saying, well, my program's worth this much money. And like, she had not been able to even hit the 5K month. And I was like, why is that your price? And she was saying, well, someone told me that I needed to charge like high prices, like to be able to sell more and for people to see that I'm an expert. And I was having another call before I got on the phone with you, when we were also talking about that. And part of the thing that I mentioned is this thing about the price. It's not so much about charging something that is so high end It's more about charging something that you feel confident with charging. Because if you're confident with charging whatever that price is, after you charge 5 people, your energy and your confidence will increase and you can potentially double that amount. And then 5 more and we assessed again and you double that amount again. So it's like people that charge so much higher than where they feel confident charging, a lot of the time get stuck because they can get themselves to back up the offer or to back up the price because they're not confident around it. So we look at all of that here in that strategy, and then we move to the 4th step. And these steps are not necessarily working siloed. A lot of them are happening at the same time. I just feel that it's easier to share the process so that people can see how it looks. But the 4th step, it's all about what I like to call align hustle. We have a goal, we have a client, we have a structure, and now you're focused on bringing people through and converting. And a lot of these takes away all the distractions that you're going to have. And if you're wondering, should I do this kind of challenge or should I do this other thing? Should I, like, it just takes away a lot of the guessing.
Fluff and guessing.
Yeah. Because we already talked about that ideal client. I'm going to use an example since you're a health coach. So like, if you know that your ideal clients are women, for example, new moms who are looking to lose their baby weight, which might be, and sometimes I get as clear as this, it all depends on who the ideal client is that we're talking about. But let's say that mom's desire, her goal is to fit into her pre-maternity clothes. For example, if that's the goal, then there's no need to be talking to older women, you know what I mean, who are doing something else. It's not that you're not meant to serve the older women, but it's that the focus is what produces the momentum. So
Totally.
So really getting booked with these new mommies is going to give you enough testimonials, enough money, enough momentum to now widen your bridge and now serve women in general. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is that's next for you.
Totally. Love it. And that's actually exactly how I built mine, because I'm actually, as we're recording this, I'm actually transitioning to help more than moms, because I have helped a lot of men and other non-moms.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I did it. Like I started with moms. I made really good money doing that. I was serving them, and then I was getting referrals who were non-moms. And then it got to a point where my clients would be trying to come on my live streams, but they're not in my Facebook group because it's only for moms. And so, you know, I recently went to a conference just like a couple of weeks ago, and I got so much clarity when I was there. And it was like, I need to, you know, widen. I'm ready now. Like I'm ready to scale up, but only because I've had the niching first.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I had something similar happen. So as I told you, I started with purpose coaching and people were like, how are you doing this? So then from there, within like a year, I moved more into business coaching. And when I moved into business coaching, even though my clients had more results, like that they had booked their program, I felt really comfortable with going with like, get your first 5 clients. After I did enough of the get your first 5 clients and they were getting like 20 clients, I'm like, okay, so now I'm ready to talk more about the get booked. You know what I mean? Like, so really it's organic and it's good because like you said, you can make money at each stage of the business, but these organic growth, I feel that it's more consistent than whenever you're just all over the place trying to reach everybody.
Totally. And I think there's a really important other piece, like when you are validating, like you're basically validating that your idea works for like one market first before you expand it out. And what you said too about it goes back to confidence, right? So you weren't saying make your first 10K month before you made your first 10K month, right? Like you were saying get first 5 clients, right? And this allows you to show up. Like, quite frankly, I've had people come who are like, I just have a lot of mindset blocks. And then you look at their messaging in their marketing, and the reason that they don't feel confident in showing up is because they're claiming things that they have not done. So I'm not saying you have to always have done something. Like maybe I actually at the conference, there was a woman who is like a physical therapist for golf pros. So like, obviously she probably is not a golf pro because she's a physical therapist, but it's also really different. So she's not claiming that she like advanced her yardage by X amount, right? Like herself. She's saying, I've helped other people to do it. So just like that integrity piece with your marketing can be the difference between you having mindset blocks, quote unquote, or just showing up with the expertise you have is enough.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, I like to talk about your zone of genius. And for me, the zone of genius, it's kind of if you were to draw a square and you were to split that square into 4 little squares, like then we're looking at one is your gift, the other one is your passion, and then your expertise, and then we're looking at your experiences. And then looking at which of this do you want to leverage, or how could we leverage even sometimes a lot of them. This lady that you just mentioned, this might be more around her passion and gifts and expertise rather than her experience. Mm-hmm. But I feel that just what you're saying, being strategic about how you position yourself in a way that of course attracts your clients, but that also resonates with you, and that you're able to stay like in integrity. For me, that integrity piece, it's like the backbone to show up and to share whatever you're sharing, knowing that you can actually help people get there because you truly know how to do it.
Yeah. And I think there's like, owning what you actually have done, and that's okay and that it's enough, right? Because I get people too who like, I have one girl, so she's a business coach. She has years of experience building an extremely successful business. But like when it comes to this space, she feels a little bit uncomfortable. And it's like, you gotta own that. Like you have to own what you have done. And that is good enough. And that is enough for you to get out there as an expert. And instead of like, I think going for expert, why not go for adding to the conversation, right? Like,
wow.
You don't have to be the leading expert in making gajillions, but you can add to the conversation of how you did it.
Preach.
Totally.
Yeah, I love this.
Sorry, so we got off track of your framework. So is there anything else you want to talk about the framework?
Yeah, so the last step for me, it's all about evaluating. And then after we evaluate, we adjust, and then we implement again. So just part of what I was saying about using that 90-day framework, I feel that sometimes people try strategy. I see this, for example, in Facebook groups all the time, and I know that I've done it myself. That's why I feel more comfortable talking about it. But we start a strategy of posting, for example, 2 times a day. And after 30 days of our post not going viral, we quit. And we're like, this doesn't work. And we just move on to the next strategy. When studies and statistics show that it takes about 90 days of people actually seeing you and of you implementing a strategy or a tactic before it can give you enough results. So if our goal is to get booked within the next 90 days to 6 months, it's just being able to take a few strategies that really resonate with you and your current stage in life and in business, and just becoming committed to adjusting what needs to be adjusted, but not jumping into a totally new boat or totally new strategy, because that sends the message to your clients that you're still figuring it out.
Totally.
Yeah, so there's no clients that come from that. So those are my 5 steps. And of course, there's like little pieces in between, just like I said, getting clear on your zone of genius and the offer, since part of my passion is the creating the actual offer and then the process of getting it booked. There's a lot of pieces in between that, but those 5 steps normally serve as the framework that we are normally focused on.
Totally. Love that. And I love that you talked about assessment. So I do use a framework with my clients. It's called the Success Game Plan. And the end of it is very much that, like, we need to see what's working. Like, you can't just like, yes, you need to keep going for 60, 90 days, but you also need data.
Yes.
Don't go out there blind and assume your stuff is not working. Like, you got to have data. And one of the things I love about my team and how organized they are is that they bring me the spreadsheets of like, okay, what posts are working? How can we do more of that? Right? Like, what is working? What is not working? And even within like the topics that you choose to talk about, right? Like, how did I know that the Biz Foundations Challenge was going to flop? I didn't until I talked about it, and I should have done research. But number two, like the data, I then, switched the conversation around. I wasn't always pounding on Biz Foundations, at least calling it that. I said, okay, now you need, to get clients. This is how you get clients. It's not super sexy, but this is how you get clients, right? So like, basically, it allows for you to test. And that's like one of the core principles of direct response marketing, which is really what we're doing, right? We're marketing online. And one of the core principles is like knowing the numbers and knowing what's working. And then you shift after you've given it trial, the numbers, and you can make a serious decision.
Yep. That's why that 5-step for me, just like what you're saying, is the tracking. We're tracking what our focus was, and then we're able to evaluate. So I totally agree. I still do this. So at the beginning of whenever I set a goal, for example, a next number of clients that I want to get into my assessment, I actually have a huge, like right here in the office where I'm at, I have a huge blue Post-it that covers like one side of the wall with the number of people I want to get on the phone with within these 90 days, based on what the offer that I have coming on, the time that I have available and all of that. But every time I talk with someone, I write their name. So not just on a spreadsheet that I can't see, even though I do use a spreadsheet, but I do believe that keeping the goal before your eyes, it really creates more of that drive and momentum. So I can really tell how many more assessments I need to have based on my last 90 days of conversion rate to be able to get the number of clients I want into week X program. Does that make sense?
Totally. I use a very similar one.
Cool.
For me, it's more about like the mindset that like, I know that I convert at this amount, right? So like if I have 10 here, I don't like when I get to the phone call, I'm not desperate because I'm like, I know I'm going to convert at like, well, at one point I was converting really good, like 80%, right?
Yeah.
And that fluctuates depending on your marketing, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm going to convert at X, right?
Yeah.
So if I get 20 people on the phone, I know I'm going to make my goal. And I have 18 people written down. So like the time of my phone call comes and I'm like, if this one is a yes or a no, I really don't care because there's a lot of other names on here.
Yeah.
So for me, it's that like the scarcity mindset because that tends to be where I know myself and that's where I tend to get like the pressure on. So for me, that is why I use that more than the tracking, but it does help also.
I love that approach, though. That's a different way of looking at it. I really like that. So I might steal that from you.
Totally. Go for it. I mean, for me, it makes, and it's again, going back to like the confidence in your system and your strategy and your tracking, right? So like I've tracked my phone calls. I know my conversion rates. I know that this is going to work.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Well,
So
there you have it, ladies.
yes, I love it. So any like last actionable, is there like one thing that's if you were to like have them have an action step to start really seeing that 10K month, like what would you say?
If your goal is to get the 10K, look at that foundation that we have been talking about. What's the goal? And then we look at what's the offer that you want to get booked. How many clients would you need in that offer to get booked? And based on the conversion rate, that gives you an idea of how many people you need to get on the phone or you need to promote it to be able, right, to meet your goal, just like what you were saying, Mariana. Mm-hmm. And then from there, part of what we are looking at is what's the strategy. And I actually offer a funnel that I share on my website where you can actually look at, I have this offer and this is my conversion rate, how many people you're able to do the math with this tracking sheet. And then it's just focus on that. Like, you're unstoppable. You can think of different tactics, like an idea of a challenge might come up, just like what Mariana was just mentioning. But that goal doesn't change. You don't start doing stuff that are not connected to the goal. It needs to lead to the goal at least 80% of the activities that you are doing. 20% can be to complete the website, you know what I mean? And to do that admin task that you have to take care of. But part of what I believe is whenever you take the time to really get from your clients, what we were talking about earlier, what it is that they need right now from you, then your offer is irresistible. And not just doing marketing online if you're starting out. That's my recommendation. I know that you and I have talked about this as well. Mm-hmm. But really tapping into the people that you might know and your current circles, where there could be people, because it's so much easier to convert someone that already knows, like, and trust you. You want to be able to bring in some of the people that might be at the church, or, you know what I mean, whatever it is at work or whatever it is that you're at, while you're building the relationships online, so that then there's that ripple effect and that momentum from all sides.
Love it. 100% love it. So what is the link for the resource? Because I'm sure they're like itching for that.
So you can do PachiMcLeod.com/10K. It's harder than that, but after we get off the phone, I will make it that easy. I'll just add that URL. So it's going to be PachiMcLeod.com/10K. And then whenever you look at that resource, you'll be able to dump in all your information and get very clear, like, how many people do you need on the phone? How many people do you need to actually claim even that lead magnet? And then how many people you need based on your conversion rate to be able to fully get booked.
Love it. Awesome. So there you have it, guys. That is really actionable and gives you something to shoot for and do right at the end of this episode. So thank you so much, Pachi, for coming on. It's been such a great conversation.
Yes.
It's been so much fun, and thank you for connecting. Hey there, thanks for listening to The Impact Driven Entrepreneur. If you enjoyed this episode, I want you to share it with a friend. Send this episode to one of your friends, because there was just so much actionable information in this episode that I want you to spread the word. If you know somebody who wants to have a business that helps other people, if you know somebody who's struggling to book clients, send them this episode and share it with them. Now, I am so excited that you are helping somebody else to also make an impact. That is why I do what I do. I really love the ripples of impact. So again, if you enjoyed this episode, you learned something from it, please go ahead and hit share with one of your friends. You can share it on social media or with a specific person. And I really, really appreciate that, because by sharing the show, we can get this into the hands of more people and really start to help people to make a difference in the world while also creating the life that they truly want. Okay, now in the next episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how to make your first $1,000. Now, I know that if you've listened to the end of this, you might be like, oh my gosh, I really, really want to get moving. I feel really inspired and motivated to do it. But for some of you, this might be a little bit overwhelming. You're like, 10,000 sounds like a lot, okay? And I got to tell you from personal experience, like, this did not happen for me overnight. I didn't actually get 10K first. I got 15 all at once. And I was a little bit like blown away and also feeling like an upper limit. So if you want to just learn how to get your next $1,000, I'm going to show you how to do that in next week's episode. It's going to be an action-packed episode, so you'll want to hit subscribe so that you can tune into that episode. Oh, and of course, I'm going to do it in a totally non-sleazy, non-pushy way that feels really, really good to you and also serves your people, because ultimately that is what I am all about, is helping you serve and help others. Okay, have an awesome day, and I will chat with you next week. Bye.